The water is not blue here, it is not even brown. It is a dark amber black, the color of strong tea, stained by the tannins and decomposing leaves of a forest so dense that the canopy above it closes out most of the sky. And it moves, not fast. The Amazon moves the way something enormous and confident moves, with a weight behind it that suggests it could absorb anything, carry anything, hold anything in its depths without showing the slightest sign on its surface. Standing at the edge of it for the first time, you understand immediately that this is not a river the way a river usually means. This is a system, a living machine so large and so complex that scientists have been studying it for centuries and still cannot agree on how many species it contains. Here is something that changes the way you understand the word river. The Amazon River discharges more fresh water into the ocean than any other river on Earth, more than the next 7 largest rivers on the planet combined. And every year, when the Andean snowmelt and the tropical rains come together, the river rises, not by a meter or 2. It rises by up to 10 or 12 meters, flooding the forests on either side of the main channel until the water covers the ground to the height of the treetops. Fish swim among the upper canopy. Dolphins navigate through submerged forest aisles. The entire distinction between river and forest, between aquatic and terrestrial, between above and below the surface, dissolves. The Amazon doesn't just pass through the forest. Once a year, it becomes the forest. And everything living in this system evolved around that fact. Something slips off the muddy bank and into the water without a sound. It is large. You know it is large because of the displacement, the way the dark water rolls up and away from the bank in a slow wave. But there is nothing to see. The surface has already closed back over whatever entered it, as smooth and opaque and unreadable as it was before. Down there, in the dark water and the tangle of submerged roots, something is watching. Something that has been watching from exactly this position, in water exactly this color, on banks exactly this muddy, for a very long time. The Amazon is not the most dangerous river in the world because of any single animal. It is dangerous the way a complex competitive system is dangerous, where everything is predator and prey simultaneously, where the rules shift with the season, where the water rises and falls, and with it the entire power structure of who eats whom. This is a river that contains more species of fish than the entire Atlantic Ocean. A river whose flooded forests host electric fish that navigate by generating their own electromagnetic field. A river whose surface is occasionally broken by something large enough to eat a caiman, or a river dolphin that is pink, or a snake the size of a car that hunts in the shallows by waiting without movement for days. Drop a comment right now and tell me where you are watching this from. Because this is one of those places that reaches into something old in people, something that recognizes the Amazon as one of the last truly wild systems on Earth. Now let us go in. The Amazon River system drains an area roughly the size of the contiguous United States. Its tributaries number in the thousands, ranging from small forest streams to rivers so large they would be major river systems in any other continent. The water that runs through it carries 2 fundamentally different characters. The whitewater rivers that come off the Andes, carrying suspended sediment and minerals that fertilize the floodplain forests they spill across, and the black water rivers that drain the ancient, nutrient-poor soils of the Guyana and Brazilian shields, their water stained dark by humic compounds from the slow decomposition of organic matter in soils that have been leached of minerals over geological ages. Where these 2 water types meet, they run side by side in distinct streams of different colors without mixing, like 2 rivers that have decided to share a channel without actually joining. The flooded forest, called Varzea, where white water inundates it, and Igapo, where black water fills it, is one of the most unusual ecosystems on Earth. For several months each year, the forest floor disappears under several meters of water. The trees have adapted to this annual drowning through root systems that can handle waterlogging, through trunk bark that resists decay when submerged, and through a set of seasonal behavioral adjustments that make the flood pulse the organizing event of the entire community's calendar. The Amazon is a system where the boundary between what counts as river and what counts as forest is not a boundary at all. It is a meeting place that changes every year. Nothing in the Amazon River system illustrates the meaning of apex predator with the same directness as the black caiman. It lies at the water's edge in the dark before dawn, almost invisible against the mud and the tangle of roots, its eyes raised just above the surface, those vertical pupils gathering what little light exists in this hour and processing it into a picture of everything on the bank and in the shallows. Its body is massive, its skin blackened to absorb the warmth of whatever sun reaches the river surface, and it is completely still. The stillness is not waiting in the way that implies impatience. It is the stillness of something that has all the time in the world. The black caiman is the largest predator in the Amazon River system, capable of growing to lengths that rival the largest crocodilians on Earth. It hunts by ambush, using the dark, sediment-heavy water as its primary tool, approaching prey from below and behind and striking with a speed that the slow drift of the water gives no warning of. It takes fish, it takes capybaras, the world's largest rodents that come to the bank to drink. It takes tapirs, it takes deer. It has been documented taking large anacondas and occasionally jaguars that make the mistake of coming too close to the water's edge without noticing what is already there. It is an animal that sits at the top of a food web so complex and so competitive that reaching the top requires not just size and power, but a complete mastery of the particular kind of hunting the Amazon River demands. The black caiman was once nearly hunted to extinction for its skin. The population collapsed across most of its range during the period of intensive commercial hunting in the middle of the last century. And in many areas of the Amazon, the caiman essentially disappeared. Its role as apex predator vacated, and the ecological consequences of that vacancy played out in the form of unregulated prey populations and disrupted river ecology that took decades to become visible. Conservation protections eventually stopped the hunting, and the caiman's recovery across much of its original range is one of the conservation stories the Amazon can point to as evidence that protection, when it comes in time and is enforced, actually works. At the edge of a shallow oxbow lake, where the dark water is warm and still and the vegetation on the bank hangs down to touch the surface, there is a shape that does not register as a shape at first. It is part of the mud bank. It is part of the tangle of roots. It is part of the shadow under the overhanging vegetation. And then it moves, and the shape reveals itself, and you understand that what you are looking at is enormous. The green anaconda, the heaviest snake in the world, has been lying in this same position, in this same shallow water, for a period of time that might be days. It does not need to eat frequently. Its metabolism, cold-blooded and running at the low rate that cold-blooded metabolism allows, means that a large meal sustains it for weeks or even months, so it waits. It waits with the patience of something that exists at a different scale of time than warm-blooded animals do, a scale where a day of stillness is not a wasted day, but simply a day. The anaconda's hunting strategy is built around the element that the Amazon provides in abundance: murky water and entangled vegetation. It does not chase prey. It positions itself where prey must come to it. At the water's edge, where terrestrial animals drink. In the shallows, where fish concentrate. Near the bank, where capybaras enter the water. It strikes from below the surface. The ambush delivered from a medium in which it can move with a fluency and speed that no terrestrial animal expects from a creature that large. The jaws close. And then, the constriction begins. The anaconda constricts. It does not crush its prey, which is one of the persistent myths about large constrictor snakes. It does not break bones. What it does is prevent breathing. The coils tighten each time the prey exhales, the snake detecting the chest's movement and closing the space each time the animal breathes out until the animal cannot breathe in. The process can take minutes. The prey suffocates or suffers cardiac arrest from the pressure. And the anaconda, which has been motionless and patient for so long, is suddenly very efficient about the end of the process. The anaconda has been documented taking prey that seems impossible for an animal that swallows its food whole. Caimans, large deer, capybaras, tapirs. The skull is not fused in the way a mammalian skull is, the jaw linked to the rest of the head through a series of flexible connections that allow it to spread enormously during swallowing, and the body behind the jaws is elastic enough to accommodate prey several times the diameter of the resting snake. After eating a large meal, the anaconda may not move for weeks, lying in the shallows while the digestion takes place, its entire metabolism redirected toward the enzymatic breakdown of a meal that may constitute a significant fraction of the snake's own body weight. The relationship between the anaconda and the caiman is not a simple hierarchy. Young caimans are regularly taken by anacondas. Large adult caimans are a different matter, and encounters between full-grown individuals of both species have gone both ways. What the coexistence of these two apex predators in the same river system represents is a balance of size and position and timing that the Amazon maintains without anyone managing it, a negotiation of territory and prey that has been running for millions of years and that produces, in the Amazon River ecosystem, the most complete and functional predator-prey system of any freshwater environment on Earth. In the dark water below the anaconda's position, in the murky depths where visibility drops to almost nothing within a few inches of the surface, the electric eel navigates by electricity. It is not actually an eel. It is a knifefish, a completely different lineage of fish that arrived at the elongated, eel-like body plan through convergent evolution. It grows to lengths that can exceed 2 meters. It breathes air, surfacing periodically to gulp oxygen because the low oxygen, sediment-heavy waters of the Amazon's black water channels and oxbow lakes cannot provide enough dissolved oxygen for an animal this large. And it generates electricity, not as a party trick or a defense mechanism of last resort, but as the primary sensory system through which it understands the world around it. The electric eel produces 2 types of electrical discharge from the specialized cells called electrocytes that line most of its body. The low-voltage discharge, which it produces almost continuously, generates a weak electrical field around its body that it uses like a sense organ, detecting the distortions caused by objects and other animals in the water around it. In the zero-visibility environment of a murky Amazon backwater, this is how the eel sees. The high-voltage discharge is the weapon. When a fish comes within range, the eel produces a short sequence of high-voltage pulses that involuntarily contract the muscles of the prey, freezing it in a kind of electrically induced seizure that lasts just long enough for the eel to close the distance and swallow it. The entire sequence, detection, immobilization, capture, takes place in the near-total darkness of water that humans cannot see through and that most other animals navigate by smell or lateral line vibration. The electric eel has turned the physics of its environment into a hunting tool so efficient that it operates in conditions where most other predators are essentially blind. The voltage the eel can produce is considerable. Multiple discharges from a large individual can cause serious physiological effects in animals, much larger than the eel's actual prey. Horses have been paralyzed and drowned by electric eels in the Amazon shallows. The shock is not reliably lethal to a healthy adult human, but it is capable of causing a muscular paralysis that, in water, can lead to drowning. The eel is aware of threats approaching from outside its water environment and will direct discharges toward the source of disturbance above the surface. The eel has learned that large mammals that come to the water's edge can be stunned and drowned, expanding its effective prey base beyond the small fish its body size seems to suggest. The piranha has a reputation that exceeds its actual behavior in nearly every respect, and yet the reality of the piranha is genuinely interesting in ways that the mythology misses entirely. There are between 30 and 60 species of piranha in the Amazon system, depending on which taxonomic approach you use, and most of them are not the flesh-stripping carnivores of popular imagination. Most piranhas eat other fish, seeds, insects, plant material, and the fins and scales of larger fish. They are opportunists. They are scavengers. They are the Amazon's cleanup crew, consuming the weak, the dead, and the dying, and returning their organic material to the system with an efficiency that keeps the river healthier than it would be without them. The red-bellied piranha, the species most associated with the feeding frenzy behavior, does occasionally engage in the rapid, coordinated group feeding that made it infamous. But the conditions under which this behavior occurs are specific: low water, high fish density, food scarcity. When fish are crowded into shrinking pools during the dry season and food competition is intense, the piranha's group feeding behavior escalates into the frenzied speed that strips a carcass to bone in minutes. Under normal conditions, in a well-functioning Amazon river with adequate food resources, a piranha is a careful and rather cautious fish, more likely to flee a large disturbance in the water than to investigate it as a potential meal. The sound of a piranha shoal is one of the more startling things about encountering them in the water. They produce a bark, a short percussive sound generated by rapidly contracting muscles attached to their swim bladder that carries through the water as a warning and a competitive signal. A shoal of piranhas feeding in low water produces a sound like rapid clicking and tearing, the noise of the water churned by hundreds of fish, and the mechanical sound of teeth on organic material that carries for some distance through the dark water. Indigenous communities throughout the Amazon basin have lived alongside piranhas for thousands of years and have a completely unsentimental and accurate understanding of the animal's actual behavior. They swim in piranha-inhabited water routinely and are rarely bitten. They also use piranha teeth as cutting tools, the serrated edge of a piranha jaw being one of the sharpest biological cutting implements produced by any animal. The pink river dolphin moves through the flooded forest at high water as though the submerged trees are not an obstacle at all. Its neck is flexible in a way that ocean dolphins' necks are not, the vertebrae less fused, allowing it to turn its head significantly relative to its body while swimming, which is essential for navigating among trunks and roots. Its echolocation is among the most sophisticated of any cetacean, capable of resolving fine detail in the murky water where visibility is effectively zero. The boto can read its environment through sound with a precision that allows it to find fish hiding in gaps between submerged roots in the dark. It hunts not only in open water, but in the complicated three-dimensional space of the flooded forest, where its ability to bend and turn in tight spaces gives it access to prey that cannot escape into open water. The pink coloration of mature male botos is one of the more unusual visual facts in Amazon wildlife. The color deepens with age and with social excitement, flushing brighter during aggressive interactions and paling when the animal is calm. It appears to result from the blood vessels near the skin surface and from scarring accumulated through a lifetime of social interactions in a species where males compete physically for access to females. The boto is not pink from birth. Young animals are gray. The color arrives slowly as the animal matures and as the skin thickens and the subcutaneous blood vessel network becomes more prominent. What looks like a tropical fantasy, a bright pink dolphin swimming through a forest, is the product of decades of life and competition in one of the most complex aquatic environments on Earth. The boto appears in the traditional stories of Amazon riverine cultures in a role that reflects both respect and unease. In some of these stories, the boto is a shapeshifter, able to take human form at night and come ashore to participate in human social events. The origin of this mythology likely reflects the boto's genuine intelligence and the uncanny quality of its behavior, the way it approaches boats with curiosity, the way it surfaces close to people, the way its face, unusually mobile for a dolphin, seems expressive. The boto exists in indigenous mythology not as a simple animal, but as something between categories, something that belongs to the river world but periodically crosses into the human world. This story reflects an ecological reality. The boto does cross between worlds, moving from river channel to flooded forest and back with the seasons, navigating the border between aquatic and terrestrial that the Amazon annually erases. Both the boto and the tucuxi, the smaller gray river dolphin that shares the Amazon system, are now listed as endangered. The threats to the river dolphin are the same threats that are degrading the entire Amazon River ecosystem. The construction of dams that fragment the river and block seasonal movement, the contamination of river water with mercury from artisanal gold mining operations, the deliberate killing by fishermen who see the dolphins as competition for fish, and the incidental capture in fishing gear. The boto's intelligence and curiosity, which made it the subject of mythology and which makes it such a compelling animal to encounter on the water, also makes it more vulnerable to these threats than a more cautious animal would be. The Arapaima's relationship with oxygen is its most remarkable feature. In the anoxic, oxygen-depleted waters of the Amazon's flooded lakes and blackwater swamps, a fish that relied entirely on dissolved oxygen in the water would suffocate. The Arapaima solved this problem by evolving a lung-like organ, a modified swim bladder lined with blood vessels and folded into a structure that allows it to extract oxygen directly from the air. It must surface every few minutes to breathe. This requirement, which might seem like a vulnerability, is also the adaptation that allows it to live in the oxygen-depleted backwaters of the Amazon that exclude most other large fish. Where the competition is less, the Arapaima thrives. It has found its niche in the most inhospitable zones of the river system and turned their inhospitability into protection. The Arapaima's scales are another biological wonder. They are large, thick, and layered in a way that has attracted considerable scientific attention because of their resistance to impact and penetration. The outer layer is hard and mineralized. The inner layers are arranged in a structure that researchers have described as similar to cross-ply engineering materials. The orientation of the collagen fibers alternating between layers to distribute impact force rather than concentrating it at a single point. The practical result is that piranha teeth, which can bite through the scales of almost any other Amazon fish, cannot penetrate the Arapaima's armor. In a river system where piranha are everywhere, the Arapaima has evolved a passive defense so effective that it effectively removes piranhas from the list of things it needs to worry about. The Arapaima is ancient. Its lineage traces back to a time when South America was not connected to North America, and the Amazon basin was not the river system it is today. It is, in the most literal sense, a living remnant of a different world, a fish whose body, plan, and physiology were developed in an Amazon that was wetter and stranger and more biologically diverse than even the current river system. What is threatening to do what millions of years of geological change could not is something much smaller and faster: overfishing. The arapaima is large, slow to reproduce, and easy to find because it must surface to breathe. Indigenous communities along the Amazon tributaries have managed arapaima populations sustainably for generations through fishing restrictions that local custom maintained. The disruption of those communities and the arrival of commercial fishing technology has reduced arapaima populations in many areas of the river to levels that raise genuine concern. The jaguar that comes to the river's edge at dusk is not doing what you expect a large cat to do. It is not drinking carefully and retreating quickly. It is hunting. The jaguar is the only large cat in the world that actively and regularly swims in rivers, and it is not merely crossing them, it is fishing in them. The jaguar's river hunting behavior, documented extensively in the Amazon and in the Pantanal wetlands to the south, includes taking caimans from the shallows, ambushing river turtles as they bask on logs, and intercepting fish and capybaras in the water itself. The jaguar is more comfortable in the water than any other member of the big cat family. Its muscular build and relatively short legs giving it a compact, powerful swimmer's body that does not match the sleek, speed-optimized build of the cheetah or the lion. The jaguar's skull is the most powerful of any cat relative to its body size, built for delivering a killing bite that penetrates the skull of prey rather than crushing the throat as lions and tigers do. This cranial bite is what allows a jaguar to kill a caiman cleanly, biting through the armored skull to the brain in a single strike, which is the only way to kill an animal that thick-skinned and that explosive quickly enough to prevent a counterattack. The caiman, the most dangerous prey in the river system, is taken by a cat that evolved specifically the skull strength needed to kill it. The jaguar and the caiman, predator and prey, have been shaping each other's evolution in the Amazon for a very long time, and the jaguar's bone-crushing bite is the record of that evolutionary dialogue. Jaguars are also documented hunters of large anacondas, and the dynamic between these two apex predators is one of the more dramatic interactions the Amazon produces. A jaguar hunting a large anaconda is not hunting prey in the normal sense. It is taking on something that, if the encounter goes wrong, can constrict and kill it. The anaconda cannot be bitten through the spine quickly from a distance. It requires sustained, close contact to kill. These encounters are rare and represent the most dangerous hunting attempts the jaguar makes, and the fact that they occur at all is a testimony to the jaguar's confidence in its own capabilities. The giant river otter patrols its section of river in a family group with a loudness and assertiveness that is remarkable for an animal that is essentially a large weasel. It communicates through a repertoire of vocalizations that has been described as one of the most complex of any mustelid, including sharp alarm calls, greeting sounds, aggressive displays, and contact calls between group members that allow the family to coordinate while spread out along a stretch of river. It hunts fish collaboratively, group members working together to herd shoals into shallower water where individuals can pick them off, and it does so with a speed and agility in the water that belies the ungainly way it moves on land. In the water, the giant otter is quick, precise, and relentless, capable of taking fish larger than itself and willing to tackle prey that most similarly sized predators would avoid. The giant river otter has been documented taking caimans. Not frequently, not as a primary prey item. But the behavior has been observed and recorded. A family group of otters working together to overwhelm a young caiman through combined harassment and attack. The fact that an animal that weighs perhaps 20 kilograms, even in a group, will take on an armored reptile says something about the otter's assessment of its own capabilities and about the competitive pressure of the Amazon River system, where the food competition is so intense that every opportunity, however risky, is worth calculating. The giant river otter was hunted to near extinction in the 20th century for its extremely dense velvety pelt, which was considered one of the finest furs available from any Amazon animal. The hunting drove the population to critically low levels across most of its range. Legal protection and the eventual collapse of the pelt market as synthetic alternatives became available allowed the otter to begin its slow recovery in protected areas. But the population remains fragile and is considered endangered across much of its historical range. The flood season, when the river rises and the forests fill with water, is the Amazon's most productive time. It is when the barriers between river and forest collapse and the entire system exchanges nutrients, organisms, and energy across what was previously a hard boundary. Fish from the river channel move into the flooded forest and find an abundance that the main channel cannot match in the dry season. Fruits and seeds from the canopy fall directly into the water and feed frugivorous fish that have been waiting for exactly this event. Insects and invertebrates from the forest floor float on the rising water and become food for surface-feeding fish. The forest that spent the dry season as a terrestrial ecosystem becomes, in the flood, an aquatic one, and the species that evolved to cross between these two states freely are among the most successful in the entire system. The acoustic environment of the Amazon River changes completely with the flood. In the dry season, the river's sounds are the sounds of moving water, the calls of riverbank birds, the splash of fish and reptiles. In the flood season, the submerged forest adds a completely different layer. The sounds of the flooded tree canopy, the calls of birds from branches still above the waterline, the croaking of tree frogs that are now surrounded by water rather than looking down at dry ground, and below the water, the sounds of fish moving through the drowned understory. The chemical signals released by rotting wood and saturated soil, the entire sonic and chemical landscape of a forest transposed into an aquatic key. The Amazon River faces threats that did not exist a generation ago at anything like their current scale. Deforestation along the river margins, which removes the bank vegetation that stabilizes the soil and shades the water and provides the overhanging cover that fish and caimans use for shelter, is altering the physical structure of the riverine ecosystem in ways that take decades to fully manifest, but that begin to show immediately in declining fish populations and increased erosion. The construction of large dams across the Amazon and its major tributaries fragments the river system, blocking the seasonal migrations of fish between river channels and flooded forests and between upstream spawning grounds and downstream feeding areas that have been the basis of Amazon River fish ecology for millions of years. Mercury contamination from artisanal gold mining operations, which use mercury to amalgamate gold particles from river sediment, has spread through the Amazon River system far beyond the areas of active mining. Mercury accumulates in the tissues of fish through the food chain, concentrating as it moves upward from small organisms to large predators, and is now detectable in the flesh of large fish and in the blood of river dolphins and the people who eat them throughout the basin. The pink river dolphin, which sits at the top of the aquatic food chain, accumulates mercury from the fish it eats across a lifetime and carries concentrations that are now, in many parts of the river, above the levels considered safe for consumption. The same contamination affects the indigenous communities along the river who depend on fish as their primary protein source. The Amazon River system remains the most diverse freshwater ecosystem on Earth. The threats it faces are real and increasing, but the scale of the system and the depth of the biodiversity it contains means that it has reserves of resilience that smaller, simpler ecosystems do not have. Parts of the river that are well managed and protected support functional predator-prey systems that have changed very little since humans first navigated these waters. The black caiman patrols the same nocturnal river margins its ancestors patrolled. The anaconda waits in the same shallow oxbow lakes. The electric eel navigates the same dark water with its electromagnetic sense. The pink dolphin bends its flexible neck to thread through the same drowned forest aisles that it has been swimming through for thousands of years. What the Amazon asks of us is not a complicated thing. It asks to be left largely alone. It asks for the rivers to run, and the forests to stand, and the flood to happen every year, and the fish to move between the river and the trees and back again. It asks for its predators to be present, and its prey to be abundant, and its water to be clean enough for the boto to keep navigating by sound in the dark. These are not impossible conditions. They require choices, economic and political choices about how the land around the river is used, what happens to the forest, where dams are built and where they are not built. But the biology of the system, the extraordinary biology that produced the electric eel and the pink dolphin and the caiman and the anaconda and the jaguar fishing in the shallows, is still here, still running, still waiting. The harpy eagle rules the canopy above the river, the largest and most powerful raptor in the Americas, with talons the size of a grizzly bear's claws and the muscular bulk to use them on prey, far larger than most birds of prey would attempt. It hunts by perching in the canopy and listening, its facial disc functioning like a satellite dish to collect and direct sound toward its ears, detecting the movement of monkeys and sloths and large birds in the forest below. When it moves from the perch to the strike, the acceleration is so fast that animals in the canopy often have no time to react before the talons close. The harpy eagle takes prey that weighs as much as itself, carrying a full-grown sloth from a high canopy limb to a feeding perch without apparent difficulty, the grip of those talons maintaining hold while the wings do the work of lifting and carrying. The harpy eagle sits at the top of the aerial food web, the way the caiman sits at the top of the aquatic food web. Its presence shapes the behavior of every primate and large bird in the forest below it, because a harpy eagle above is one of the few things in the Amazon that a howler monkey or a spider monkey cannot outrun or outclimb. The constant alertness that troops of Amazon monkeys maintain, the alarm calls that shoot through the canopy when a large raptor is detected, the way the canopy animals scan the sky as automatically as they breathe, are all responses to a predator that has been present in this forest for long enough that the behavioral response to it is essentially hardwired. The howler monkey, whose call carries through the forest at dawn and dusk as one of the most distinctive sounds the Amazon produces, is announcing its location with a precision that seems counterproductive in a forest full of predators. But the howl serves multiple purposes. It is territorial, marking the group's position to other howler troops so that the energy-expensive business of direct confrontation can be avoided. It is social, reinforcing the cohesion of the troop by demonstrating that all members are present and healthy. And in a world where the canopy is so dense and the group so spread out, the howl is the only reliable way to communicate across the distances that separate troops whose home ranges overlap. The sound that fills the Amazon dawn is not a warning. It is a community announcement. The poison dart frog moves across the forest floor with a confidence that seems like foolishness until you understand what it is wearing. The bright colors, the reds and yellows and blues and oranges that make these tiny frogs look like they were designed for a child's toy collection are warnings. The chemicals in the frog's skin are among the most potent natural toxins in the world, derived from the insects the frog eats, and sequestered in skin glands from which they can be released passively when the frog is touched or compressed. The toxins affect the nervous system of a predator that contacts them with a speed and severity that makes the learning experience unforgettable if the predator survives it. The bright colors say, "Do not try." They say it in a language that every predator in the Amazon eventually learns to read. Some of these frogs were historically used by indigenous hunters to poison blowgun darts, which is the origin of their common name, though the number of species actually used for this purpose is smaller than the collective name implies. The frog's chemical arsenal has also attracted the attention of pharmaceutical researchers because the same potency that makes these compounds dangerous also makes some of them valuable. Derivatives of compounds found in poison dart frog skin have been developed into pain medications and are being studied for other therapeutic uses. The most toxic things in the forest sometimes contain the most useful chemistry. The leafcutter ant is not a river animal, but it is one of the Amazon's most important organisms, and its relationship with the river ecosystem is more direct than it appears. Leafcutter ant colonies move enormous quantities of plant material through the forest, cutting leaf fragments and carrying them in the characteristic processions that look like moving rivers of green confetti through the leaf litter. The leaves are not food. They are substrate for fungus, which the ants farm in underground chambers and which is the actual food source of the colony. The cutting and transport of leaf material, done at a scale that represents a significant fraction of the total leaf production of the forest in any given area, aerates the soil, brings nutrients to the surface, and creates the kind of disturbed, nutrient-enriched patches that pioneer plant species colonize and that maintain the forest's regenerative diversity. The leafcutter ant is not at the top of any food web. It is part of the base of the entire forest's nutrient cycle. The Amazon basin contains approximately 10% of all known species on Earth, 10% of the entire planet's documented biodiversity, located in a single river drainage. And the rate of species discovery has not slowed. New species of fish, insects, plants, and vertebrates are formally described from the Amazon basin every year at a rate that makes the Amazon still, today, a genuine frontier of natural history. The pace of new species descriptions from the Amazon is faster than the pace at which known species are going extinct there, which is an unusual and hopeful situation for a biodiversity hotspot in the 21st century. But the gap between those two rates is not wide, and the threats to the system are not static. The Amazon is not a museum. It is not a relic of a wilder past preserved by its own remoteness. It is an active, functional, continuously evolving ecosystem that is producing new species today at the same time it is losing old ones. The caiman's nocturnal patrol is not an echo of a past ecology. It is the current state of the current ecology. The electric eel's electromagnetic hunting is not a fossil strategy. It is a contemporary solution to the contemporary problem of hunting in zero visibility water. The boto's flexible neck navigation of the flooded forest is not an adaptation to a world that no longer exists. It is an adaptation to a world that exists right now, every year when the river rises and the trees go under. What the Amazon River system does, more completely than any other ecosystem on Earth, is demonstrate what the natural world looks like when it is left to run its own program. When the predators are present at every level and the prey responds to them, and the flood comes, and the forest floods, and the fish swim through the trees, and the dolphins bend their necks between the drowned trunks, and the jaguar comes down to the bank, and the caiman watches from the water's edge, what you are looking at is the complete version of an ecosystem. The version that has all its parts. The version that took millions of years to assemble and that produces in its completeness a complexity of life that no partial version can replicate. The capybara, the world's largest rodent, grazes on the riverbanks in groups, moving between the water and the bank with a casual ease that reflects how completely it is adapted to this amphibious zone. When danger approaches from the land, it enters the water. When danger approaches from the water, it moves to the bank. It can stay submerged for several minutes to avoid aerial predators. It can run faster than it looks, capable of running to escape terrestrial ones. The capybara is both prey and participant, eaten by caimans and anacondas and jaguars and harpy eagles in roughly equal measure, and its population size and distribution are shaped by the combined pressure of all these predators in a way that no single one of them alone could achieve. It is the Amazon's most obvious demonstration of what ecologists call multi-predator environments. Landscapes where prey animals must simultaneously accommodate the threat profiles of multiple different predators operating by completely different methods from completely different directions. The insects of the Amazon riverside are a chapter in themselves. The morpho butterfly, with wings that from above appear to be an impossible metallic blue that exists at no other wavelength in nature, moves through the riverside vegetation in its own private physics demonstration. The blue is not pigment. It is structural color, produced by microscopic layered structures on the wing scales that interfere with light to reflect only blue wavelengths with an intensity that seems to generate its own light. When the morpho tilts in flight, the color shifts and vanishes, the wing's underside being a brown and camouflaged pattern that makes the butterfly invisible when it lands with its wings closed. The morpho is advertising itself in flight and hiding at rest, oscillating between visible and invisible with every wing beat. The river is also the highway. For human communities along the Amazon and its tributaries, the river is road, market, communication route, source of food and water and transport. The indigenous communities that have lived along the Amazon for thousands of years built their entire culture around the river's seasonal rhythms, timing their activities to the flood and the dry season, their food preservation to the glut of fish that come with the flood, their travel to the high water periods when the canoe routes through the flooded forest are open. The river is not background to the human story of the Amazon. It is the story, and the animals of the river, the ones this documentary has been following through the dark water and the flooded canopy and the nocturnal bank, are the story's other characters. The Amazon River will still be running long after every current political and economic dispute about its future is resolved one way or another. The question is not whether it will persist, but what it will contain. Whether the caiman will still be there, whether the boto will still be navigating by sound through the flooded forest, whether the electric eel will still be generating its electromagnetic world in the dark water, whether the jaguar will still be coming down to the bank at dusk to look for caimans in the shallows. These are not rhetorical questions. They are the real ones. And the answers depend on the choices being made right now about deforestation rates and dam construction and mining regulation, and how seriously the countries whose land the river runs through take the biological treasure that it holds. The glass frog, with its translucent belly through which the beating heart is visible, clings to a leaf above the waterline as the flood rises. The freshwater stingray, flat and nearly invisible against the sandy river bottom, waits for the current to bring something over it. This is the Amazon, still here, still running, still full of things that science has not yet named. If something from the Amazon stayed with you today, leave it in the comments. Tell me which creature. Tell me which moment. This river has been running its competition for millions of years, and it still has more to reveal than any human has yet documented.